he's out and about too much. So go to the bathroom, and I'm thinking I'm sneaking in there, and he's in the bathroom. And he looks at me and he goes, "Hello, son. How are you?" And I said, "Mr. Adams, I'm doing fine." He said, "I notice you're in casual clothes today." And I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "It's casual Friday." And he said, "Well, it's casual Friday in Houston too." He said, "I noticed all those other kiss asses are wearing suits in the office." He said, I'm happy to see you're following the rules." I said, "Yes, sir." So I walked out of there, started telling all the other kiss asses that wore suits on a Friday that normally don't. I said, "He's on to your game." And he was totally fine with me. So luckily he didn't fire me.
All right, so we're live in the group. We're waiting for some people to start watching. I'm going to go ahead and get us on the chatting screen. Hello, everybody. If you're joining us, start commenting and chatting. If you have any questions, we have a special guest tonight. His name is Blake Beddingfield. He's a former scout of 19 years for the Titans, correct?
Correct.
So, all the Jaguars fans, you have to be on your best behavior.
He just broke my heart, so I was just never a big fan of him.
I bet.
That's funny. I had a similar thing.
Were you a scout when they got Derrick Henry?
I was. Yes, I was.
That would have been, yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to save that one. Okay. Let me add that to my
That's funny. I worked for Carl Malone for a few years, and that's the exact same thing. Like, a very similar story happened with me, too. I was just a young kid, and it was like, he was the nicest guy, but everyone always just did that to the new person, just tried to get you afraid of him, but he was like, no, he was like...
And Carl Malone could be intimidating.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't have to guard him, so I wasn't,
That's right.
Yeah, I heard a lot about him. They say a jerk.
Carl Malone.
Yeah.
I worked for Carl Malone and John Stockton, and John Stockton's the one you'd never see.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now, he came from Gonzaga too, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure he's watching right now.
And where did Carl Malone come from?
Oh,
Louisiana.
Yeah.
There you go, Matthew.
I say he's down.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not so good with college, so that's
We already have some comments. Love to see Titans people on here. So,
my favorite player of all time came from my college too, Akeem Olajuwon. So
Akeem Olajuwon.
Yeah, he's dope to me. I could argue all day.
I mean, how can you beat the dream? He's he and Clyde Drexler. I mean, how do you beat that?
By Slamma Jamma.
Who was the third player that was really good? There was another player on that Houston Cougar team that was, and his name escapes me.
I can never think of his first name, but it's Williams, the point guard.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah.
Matt, did you share?
I did, man. I did, even on Twitter.
Oh, look at you. All right, well, you guys ready to get this thing rolling?
Yeah, let's roll.
Coming in already. Titans, you should be
Let's do
happy
it.
because, I mean, who would have thought before the season started we would have two Titans guests? We can't even hardly get Titans commentators to show up on time. Like, this is great. This is great. I love it. Good job. This is going to be fun, too. We had Tom McManus on last year to talk about training camp. So it's really cool because, you watch TV and you get, like, kind of the fan perspective. You talk to the players, you get the players' perspective. But everybody forgets about you guys. You know what I mean? So
no question.
It's really cool to get this side. So
scouts are out of sight, out of mind, and that's usually the way most scouts like it. But it's
important people.
It can be sometimes, yeah. If you're listened to, or I guess it could be good if you're listened to and you're good at it, or you're listened to and you're not. But yeah, it can be. It's an important part of the puzzle, and it's a long journey each year to get to that point. But they do a lot of work, that's for sure.
Yep. Well, let's get this ball rolling. You guys ready?
Yeah,
let's do it.
Let's do it.
Hold on, one last thing. Recording. We made that mistake before. Okay, here we go. Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the AFC South Fan Battle Podcast. My name is Samantha Warnett. I am your non-biased but biased host for this evening. Before we jump into our commentators, I want to give a shout out to some of our commentators and admins of Fan Battle. Mr. Harish Nukala is getting married this weekend, which is congratulations.
Congrats.
And Michael Roach and his wife, Maura, welcome their own little Jaguar baby. And his name is Maverick, which is a cute name. And
Congrats.
congratulations to the both of you. Those are big positive things happening in the group, right? So without further ado, our commentators for this evening for the Colts, we have Josh Sr.
What's good?
For the Texans, we have Matt Briggs.
Let's go Astros. I think
Wrong.
that's in.
Wrong podcast. Wrong podcast.
Hey.
Oh.
This isn't
Doesn't
the
matter.
cheating. This isn't the Cheaters Fan Battle podcast, Matt. Wrong one.
If he ain't cheating, he ain't winning.
Oh,
Just
always.
saying. Ask Tom Brady. Ask Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And for the Jaguars, we have Matt Grieve.
Duval.
That's like music to my ears. I love it. And for the Titans, we have John Haw.
Okay, I know I'm a Titans person, but hopefully this year order will be restored to the universe and my beloved Yankees will actually win the World Series this time.
All
Yeah.
over the
So,
Well, we have a special guest this evening. His name is Blake Beddingfield. He was a former director of scouting for the Titans for 19 years. And you can find him on Twitter. It's at Blake Bed. That's BlakeBeddD. Blake, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. It's good to be with you.
So, like I said in pre-production, this is a different environment, so be prepared. I know you did scouting for the Titans, and I have a couple questions for you to start, and
Sure.
then we'll let John take over, and if the other guys have any for you. But the first, which is because this year has been kind of weird, right? And so, being a former scout, with the combine being canceled for COVID and everything surrounding it, how hard do you think scouting was this year? And how is scouting this day and age different in general from when you started?
I think that's a great question because I think it's a number of different answers to that. I think scouting was extremely difficult for scouts this year. One of the things as a scout you do when you go on the road in the fall to start watching games, you don't just watch games. The most important thing you do is during the week. You will go to a different university every day. So I'll go spend an entire day at the University of Tennessee, get in my car. The next day I'm at North Carolina. The next day I'm at North Carolina State. But I'm spending an entire day with coaching staffs, strength and conditioning, training staffs. I'm watching film. I'm watching practice. I'm getting to know the players. I'm getting an up close bird's eye view of them. And I'm also getting the background information, which is so important. I always say in scouting, 50% of what you do is the evaluation. The other 50% is kind of like being a private investigator. You've got to find out about the player. And that's what they missed this year. They were not able to go on the road and be in the schools and dig that information. So the scouts that have connections outside where they can pick up the phone, call a coordinator, call a position coach, call a head coach, a trainer, and get the real information. Those are the teams that are going to have a lot of success this year. If you have a young scouting staff without that network of people that you can call on, it's going to be tough. But going through the combine, that's that second, third phase of the scouting process that's so important to scouts, coaches, general managers, to really kind of put a bow on everything, to tie it all up and say, this is the way we feel about a player. We got the fall evaluation. We saw the all-star games. We've gone to the combine. We'll probably go to some pro days to just put a wrap on it. But it's really important. And I think that's a great question because this draft's going to have a lot of question mark players, not only because of the lack of work that can be done, but also players that opted out and you haven't seen for over a year.
Well, because a lot of these colleges, right, get a better reputation and better scouting for them if they do have players that go forward to the NFL, right? So they're going to be like, oh, this guy's great. He's squeaky clean. He does nothing wrong. And how are you going to be able to tell, right?
No question. That's why you build up that network of people. Because if I had a head coach that's telling me a player is squeaky clean, I'm going to his position coach. I'm going to go to the trainer. I may go to a secretary in the building, the equipment guy, somebody that's going to tell me the truth about the player. And that's what, over a period of times, you mentioned 19 years in the league, those were going 19 years to a lot of the same schools where I got to know the people and know the people in the building. And that was what was so important. So when I showed up, I had a friendly face that I could rely on, and somebody that had told me the truth in the past, and then I'm looking forward to telling me the truth now, because that's what ends up happening. If you miss information, you can screw up a lot of things in the draft for a long period of time.
I didn't plan on asking you too many questions, but this is like intriguing. So I only got two more for you. But have you ever interviewed a girlfriend?
You know what's funny is I have, and I ended up getting the player. He was an undrafted player. I was leaving a practice field at Middle Tennessee State University, and there just happened to be this blonde standing outside watching practice. And I said, "Hey, is your boyfriend on the team?" And I'll make this story short, but she said, "Yes, he's the big offensive lineman." Just happened to be one of the players that I wanted.
Perfect.
He wasn't going to be drafted, but I thought he was a good enough player to maybe make our practice squad or make our team. And she gave me some great information because I started drilling her with questions. I said, you know, he was a senior. She was a junior. They were going to get engaged to be married. He didn't want to leave the city of Nashville because Middle Tennessee is located in Murfreesboro, right outside Nashville. And so when the draft came around, he didn't get drafted, but he was a draftable player on our board. So when I called him and his agent up, I said, "Hey, you know, we want to sign you to a contract." His agent said, "Absolutely not. He's going to another team because they're going to pay more money." I said, "No, he's not." And I called him and said, "Hey, you know, your girlfriend is going to be here in town. You're going to be here." And he ended up signing with us, had a 3-year career with us. His name was Barry Hall. He
So
was
it's
an
like
offensive
sales
lineman.
too. Like you don't
It
even think
is.
about that. It's like
It is.
sales.
And the funny thing is I'm still friends with him today. I still talk to the now wife. And he's a high school coach in Georgia, and I still talk to him
That's
today.
awesome.
And it's you kind of build those relationships as players and scouts.
Happy
That's
wife,
awesome.
happy life.
That's
Happy
right.
wife, happy life. There's no doubt about that.
All right. So I only have one more question for you, and then we'll let John, our Titans commentator, take over. I'm from Jacksonville. Okay, born and raised. So you mentioned that you were scouting for the Titans when they picked up Derrick Henry. So, when did you realize that the Florida water is the best?
You know, I don't know about the water, but the people that come out of that water is pretty good. But you know,
You're welcome, Tennessee. You're welcome.
And the beer's a little watered down there too. But anyway, so you know, they do have great players, and you know, it's interesting when you look at a school. Well, we'll get on Derrick Henry, but you know, you even look at schools like UCF and Florida International, Florida Atlantic. They all have speed coming out of there. It's always fast people, and I talked to some of the people at those universities. I'm like, why aren't y'all recruiting, you know, Nashville or other players? I said, we have so much talent in the state. We can field all the teams without having to go out of state, and they do, and they got a lot of players. I remember when we drafted Chris Johnson, he was out of Florida, and we had asked him because he ran a 4.24 in the combine, and he ran track in high school, and I said, hey, have you ever been beaten in a race? Because, you know, 4.24, it's pretty elite.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, one time in high school. And I said, who was that? And he said, Walter Dix. Walter Dix was an Olympian sprinter. That's the only person to have ever beat Chris Johnson, but another Florida guys, to answer your question.
Yeah, it's because of all the humidity down here. I don't know if we just get bigger muscles or better lung capacity or wrestling alligators, Florida man. I don't know. We don't know.
You have a lot more time outside to run. How about that?
It's all the hurricanes.
It's cold up here in the
maybe they drop some radioactive stuff when the hurricanes come through.
There's a lot more resistance in the air, so it builds more muscle as you run.
Right.
That's what it is. All right, John, go ahead. You got some questions for Blake?
You know, I don't really have too many other questions. I think probably just start out from like the Titans perspective, especially heading into this year's draft. And like the Titans really, they kind of cut loose a lot of people on defense, and presumably now they've picked up a few people here and there. And I think the assumption is probably that they're going to be looking towards drafting some of those holes and maybe even a wide receiver. I know they've signed another wide receiver, but considering where they are in the draft, in your opinion, would it necessarily behoove them to try to go after somebody as they're picking number 22? Is there anybody worth it that you see could maybe be available, or would it maybe behoove them to sort of like trade down and maybe accrue more picks so they can just bring in some more people?
I think when you're starting to look at like a Titans organization that has a number of holes to fill, a starting receiver, a starting tight end, and you have some positions that you could sit there and say, Bud Dupree's not going to be ready when the season starts. He had his ACL surgery in December, so he'll be a PUP candidate. So he'll be late coming in. They still need to fix that pass rush. That pass rush is so important to them having success on defense. I think you saw it with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, what they could do to the teams in the playoffs and then ultimately the Super Bowl with the pass rush. Yes, they have Tom Brady. He wins Super Bowls by himself a lot of times.
That defense
pass
was
rush
tremendous.
Is key. It's key. It was key versus the Chiefs for sure, with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So I think going pass rush, corner position is not something that is ultimately strong right now after releasing Malcolm Butler and Adoree Jackson. This is a team that's going to rely on Christian Fulton, the second round pick last year, and then have some other players like Janoris Jenkins, another Florida homegrown player, and Kevin Johnson, a former first round pick. That's your corner position. But with Bud Dupree not ready for the season, when it starts, you could go Kwity Paye. You could take a chance on Gregory Rousseau if he's there, the pass rusher out of Miami, which I think the Titans may steer clear of. Taking more chances right now is not really what they need to be doing. They need to take a plug-and-play player. If it's a corner position player, if you have somebody fall like a J.C. Horn, that's a good player for them that can really add to that defense. But they're still going to have holes at that receiver position. But if one of those top receivers is not there, do you take a player like a Rondell Moore, who's more of a joker type player, a do-it-all type of guy? Every team wants one of those, and that could really be a dynamic player on the offense. When you're talking about having a Derrick Henry running the football and the play action game that he and Ryan Tannehill can have, spreading the field horizontally is just as important as going vertically. And when you have a Rondell Moore, you have the Tyreek Hill type players. Those can really be advantageous for defense because of the ability to spread it horizontally.
It's interesting. Yeah, I've always it just seems, do you think that there's going to be enough available to us where we're at? Do you think what are the chances that we could actually get any of these plug and play kind of guys like where we're at in the first round? Or
I think corner positions are tough. When you look at the NFL draft every year, the hardest thing to find in free agency is usually the ones you seek out in the first round. So quarterbacks, pass rushers, left tackles. Okay, those are tough to get in free agency. Rarely do they come available. A couple of opportunities where teams have traded for quarterbacks to get that player. So, if you're looking at a top flight corner, they're going to be tough to get. Pass rushers, again, are premium position in the NFL, whether it's free agency or the draft. So I think that could be tough to get, but I think the Titans are in a position where acquiring more picks is fine, but they have a high number of draft choices this year. It's just a matter if the value is still on the board. If the value player is on the board, take that best player available, whatever position it may be. If it's a pass rusher, defensive lineman, corner, you're going to need that. Receiver, tight end. Those are all need positions. And especially when you're talking about moving forward, when you look at maybe a 3 to 4 year window of what's going to come available in free agency. So I think sticking at 22, I think you could probably get the Rondell Moore. You may be able to get one of the pass rushers, especially if those 5 quarterbacks go in the first top 20 picks.
Yeah, no question. I mean, the Tennessee could take really someone at any position except maybe quarterback. And even then I wouldn't be opposed. I mean, obviously not a first round, but just where we are at. And it's just how we've cut people loose and everything like that. So, I mean, I get it. I was just wondering about that. The only other question, sorry, go ahead, Sam.
Can I interrupt you just for a couple comments and questions from the group?
Oh, absolutely.
And then I'll let you take over. We want Pat, no chance. I'm not sure which part that was referring to. The Titans draft is going to be a joke. So that's probably a Jaguars fan. It just says fake Facebook user. We don't know.
As Mr. Clint House.
And we do have a question.
Could be Tesmer.
Do the Titans look at Christian as a future true shutdown corner?
I think they're probably looking at him as a supplement to last year. He would have been in the mix for what they were going to do is move Adoree Jackson inside of the nickel, have Christian Fulton play on the outside along with Malcolm Butler. This year they had to make some adjustments. They had to make adjustments by cutting a Malcolm Butler's salary, getting rid of Adoree Jackson and his large salary number. So Christian Fulton's going to have to play more of a role, but will he be a shutdown corner in the league? I don't think so. I think he's maybe a number 2 at his best, his highest ceiling, really just a solid starter, which you can win with in the league if you have a good pass rush. So I think he could be a solid starter. But last year he kind of fought those injuries all year long. And this year he's going to need to be healthy for the team to have some success, because they don't have a lot of resources to continue to put money and valuable assets like draft choices into that position. They're going to need to take one, but you can't replace somebody you're going to rely on.
Yeah, it's so hard with that defense having to, especially in this last year when they just had people just rotating in and out and, filling in several different roles. I mean, Amani Hooker played, free safety. Like he was much better in the box, I found, but they had him drop back a lot. And it just really, really hurts when you don't have a pass rush. Obviously, just a quick one, like Jadeveon Clowney, like there's no way they're going back to him, right? Like they're not going to.
Jadeveon's the great tease. He looks good, and he at times you sit there and you go, wow, he can really be explosive, but he doesn't make enough plays. He's got a lot of injuries. He's had a lot of surgeries. He's one of those that you want. You want that person, you want that player to emerge on your team. And it's hard for him to do it. He's a freelancer. He's a gap jumper. He's a guy that's going to create pressure even when he's giving up the gap that he should have been responsible for and open lanes. And he does that at times. Now, he can be dynamic with his quickness and size and length, but being a consistent overall player, especially for the money they tried to pay him last year, and then another surgery on that knee. We're talking about, I think he's in the range of 8 surgeries on his back, his pelvis, and his knees. That's not a great area of the body that you want to continue to have surgeries on if you're looking for an explosive, productive, dynamic type pass rusher. At some point, his body's going to shut down on him.
Every year he was with the Texans, every offseason he had a surgery. I think he was with the Texans 5 years. So, I mean, that's not good for any player.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so the only other thing I really it's so interesting because I've never talked to a scout, and I always think about your perspective of things. Like, so obviously your main part of your role is sort of like looking at college people or free agents and people to sign. But like, do you out of let's say you're with the Titans, do you sort of follow these guys while they're there? Do you let's say, for example, and I bring it up just because I was told to bring up AJ Brown to you guys. This is kind of a trash talk group or whatever, but AJ Brown actually replied to you in a tweet from I don't remember how long ago, but yesterday there was a tweet, there was some sort of note you had made about his yards after the catch maybe not being so great, but he just made a comment saying, hey, ain't nobody caught me yet. Do you sort of and me as a scout, I would kind of take pride in still being in that player's head that makes him want to improve. Is that sort of something that kind of sticks with you? Do you follow these people that maybe you were made a hand? Obviously AJ Brown, you weren't there for that, but were there anybody players in particular that you thought hey, you know what, maybe I undervalued them and I sort of maybe had an impact on them improving or anything like that?
I always tried to, when I was with the team, I always tried to keep it positive, kind of keep an open door relationship with some of the players. I didn't even know AJ Brown tweeted me or anything like that. I don't really keep, I have the Twitter account and I tweet some stuff and all that kind of stuff, some thoughts, but I don't really follow what people say.
I can't imagine you could take things personal or whatever, but is there something
never take things personal,
right? And you could,
I don't.
You wouldn't be able to do it, but.
And I know what they're probably referring to on AJ. When he came out of the draft, I thought AJ was a big physical receiver that was really good after the catch. And that's what he's really proven to be in the league. He's a big physical receiver that's really good after the catch and after contact. And if you look at a lot of his long runs, there's shorter passes that he's turning into long runs because he has enough athleticism and strength and ability to break arm tackles. They take bad angles on AJ Brown, and a little bit of that is his play speed is good, So you see a big 225-pound receiver coming at you, and you don't take into consideration that his play speed is pretty good. And then he breaks those arm tackles on a 200-pound corner or safety, and he can take it the distance that way. So, I've never tried to get in players' heads or anything like that. And I think if I'm sure AJ's a good enough athlete and a good enough player where he doesn't need me for sure.
No, it's like, do you ever follow these guys even after? So it's like you're with the Titans and they're already with you. Obviously, you would still kind of follow them, but it's like, do you follow as closely and like really sort of like look at what they've changed or anything like that, or is it?
I think
always
that's
on
all
to the
a part
younger
of
guys.
It's always part of being a scout. I always like to self-scout myself and why I thought about this as a player or why I made a mistake on a player. Because as a scout, you always make mistakes. And I always wanted to know why. What did I miss on that? What did I miss on that guy? And what did I not do in the background search? Or did I not watch enough film of him? Or did I completely just screw up his evaluation, and so I always kind of used a self scout on myself, and I always encouraged our scouts to do the same thing, and we did that as a group in training camp. Why players are now productive in the league when we didn't have them as being ultra productive coming out. But I think that's how you get better. With players and stuff, follow their career. Sure. Am I going to follow Derrick Henry's career? Yeah. I'm an Alabama graduate too, so I want him to be great. And Taylor Lewan was a player that, I scouted when we drafted him and loved Taylor as a person as well. And actually my family really liked Taylor. My daughter became really tight with him when she was a youngster, and they hit it off. So she always makes sure Taylor is doing well. So yeah, there's those little things like that you keep up with. And I do that with players around the league too. There's some that are just so good that you want them to have success. Marcus Mariota was a great example. Couldn't have been a better human being. And I don't care what team Marcus Mariota's on, you want him to have success because he's a hard worker, he's dedicated, he's a team guy. He just hasn't had that opportunity yet. And we'll see if he does.
Oh, you're talking about the Titans, Blake Bortles?
Blake Bortles. Now Blake was a different story. So Blake was a guy that kind of changed as he got in the league and kind of got I call it the yips. I mean, with his throwing motion, it was something mental more than it was physical, and it's tough for him to overcome and ultimately put him as a backup.
Kind of like David Carr.
He played in the AFC Championship.
David Carr's yips came from a lot of being on his back, but yeah,
a lot
of being on his back.
Yeah.
Well, I know that we're running low on time with you. Do any of you guys have any questions? Try to keep it short and sweet. So
I got one.
Mr. Blake Beddingfield can go to bed.
I got one for you. I asked this question with every guest we got.
Oh gosh,
and,
here we go.
and like I said, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but you come in contact with a lot of players, a lot of coaches, a lot of personalities. What is the biggest dick you ever ran into in the NFL?
That's a good question.
And if you say Bud Adams, you'll make Matt really happy, even though
you know what? I really like Bud Adams, so I can't say that. That is a great question.
You was fishing for that earlier, Matt.
He was. I always had great experiences with him. There are a lot of people. It's more of like, you kind of got to get through the facade of. I'll say this. Joe Paterno was not my favorite guy at Penn State.
Oh, okay.
He just was a real pain in the rear. And as a scout, he only let you in there for 1 week during the year, and he was really not. He's kind of a jack the whole time.
It's odd. He has such a glowing reputation.
I know. But he was probably my least favorite guy ever. And when I saw him, even though he was, been in college football for 50 plus years or whatever, and you had to have the respect for what he's done. I just didn't like him. I just didn't like what he brought, to his players. I thought a lot of his players missed opportunities in the NFL because he didn't allow scouts to do their job. And then he was jerky when you got there, and it just wasn't a great experience. And love Happy Valley, love Penn State, love the uniforms, but Joe Pa was not one of my favorites. So he would probably rank up high.
We had a Houston radio guest on a couple of weeks back, Sean Pendergast. His was Warren Sapp. He said he was just a complete dick, and so that one didn't surprise me. Joe Paterno, that kind of surprised me a little bit. So
Yeah, that's
very,
as
very
a
interesting.
as a scout, he didn't like you in your building. I'll tell you another one was Lloyd Carr when he was at Michigan.
Oh wow. Okay.
Lloyd was, and I wouldn't call him a dick. He hated scouts and he didn't treat us very well. So if the football field was on one side of where you were standing, he would make the scouts stand with their back up against a wall as far away from the field as possible, with still giving you access to practice, but you would be 100 miles away. And most veteran scouts, and I was there when I was younger, most veteran scouts would not even go to practice because they said it's just a waste of time. And as a young scout, you show up because that's what you're supposed to do. And I went, he made it so difficult on us. It was a pain in the ass.
Well,
That's awesome.
Matt Grieve or Josh Senior, do you guys have any questions?
I got one quick question, if you don't
Go ahead,
mind.
Matt.
Yeah, sure. No, hit me.
Now it's not specifically for the AFC South. I'm curious, as the consensus is essentially that Trevor Lawrence is the number one quarterback coming out of the draft, and then it's just kind of everybody else. So I'm curious, where would you rank the next quarterbacks? You know, we've got Trey Lance.
Why is Zach
Justin
Wilson number
Fields.
2?
Zach is that great shiny toy. You know, he came on the scene this year and he's got a really nice arm. I remember watching him the first time. I was doing some work for a team, and I started to watch him and I was surprised. I was surprised of how athletic he was, how he was able to throw off platform, off balance, and make really, really nice throws. He had a lot of poise to him in the pocket as well. And he has that. There's a thing called athletic confidence, and he has it. He's got an athletic confidence about him, but he's got a dynamic arm. Now, can he, when the heat's turned up outside of BYU? You know, we're talking about the NFL. He's going to go to a team that isn't ready to be at the top of the NFL. How is he going to perform? I think when you look at franchise quarterbacks, I think there's one in this draft, and that's Trevor Lawrence. Franchise quarterbacks can carry a team no matter who's around them. I think Zach Wilson can be a solid player if he has players around him. Offensive line is going to be important, but the playmakers. You brought up a great point earlier, and I was going to add to that. I think when a team, you brought up Derek Carr, when a team drafts a quarterback, they think build the offensive line in front. That's great. Build the wall. Okay. But if the receivers cannot separate and get open, there is no offensive line that can hold their block for 4 seconds while a receiver's trying to get open downfield. You better get some playmakers, get some people in place that can take the pressure off the quarterback, and that not just a left tackle or a guard or a center, but some playmakers. You know, you look at Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes stepped in to a great situation with Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce, some good players around him. The offensive line is okay. They're solid with the Chiefs, but he had the playmakers to build a dish. Trevor Lawrence is going to walk into a situation with a pretty solid offensive line, a solid running game, but they started to add to the receivers. You know, they got Chenault, they got Chark, they signed Marvin Jones. Those are players that are going to be able to take pressure off him right from the start. And if they add another little playmaker to that role, you're talking about a guy that can hit the ground running. Where Zach Wilson's going to go probably to the Jets, and he's not going to have that. They tried to build the offensive line last year. They had the first-round left tackle. What are they going to put in place? They have a couple receivers. They signed Corey Davis. They have Denzel Mims. They have Crowder. But what else are they going to put in place? Who's the running back? They got to take pressure off him. He's going to need other players.
You know,
How would
Blake,
you rank
I
the
didn't,
quarterbacks?
I
I think
didn't
is what
like
Matt
that
said.
because you're completely killing my narrative that the Jaguars' problem is the offensive line and the amount of money they paid Andrew Norwell. So I didn't.
You know,
like
players like Trevor Lawrence are going to make offensive lines look good. You look at the players that make the Pro Bowl every year; they usually have great quarterbacks in front of them that could get rid of the ball. Trevor's an outstanding player, and he's probably the best one I've seen since Andrew Luck. And if you look at his record, there's something about quarterbacks when they win at every level. I think Trevor's record in high school was 52-2, and I think he only lost 2 or 3 games at Clemson. There's something about guys that win at every level. They tend to continue that track record, and I think he probably will.
What about those other quarterbacks? Sorry, I cut off Matt though.
I'm a non-biased host, so I can't say anything, but I think that is amazing for the Jaguars.
You know,
I'm just kidding. I'm so excited. Okay. Anyway.
No.
Josh Senior, do you have any questions before Mr. Beddingfield logs off with us tonight?
Yes. If you were a scout for the Colts, Who do you think that the coach should draft for a tackle to replace Anthony Costanzo?
I think when you start to look, I wouldn't force the issue at tackle. I really wouldn't. When they're picking at 21, they could take a Rondell Moore. They could take a player that helps Carson Wentz in that run there. But I don't think you force the issue with just taking the best left tackle. I think you have to look at the players that are there, whether it's another tight end, probably not a tight end, but maybe a receiver, or even on the other side of the ball, a cornerback, which is a need for them. They could also add pass rush. They haven't signed Justin Houston back. They lost to Nico Autry. That could be another position for the Colts to be able to select. They have a number of different areas they could go. I think their GM does a fantastic job there. He drafts very well, but he also, just like you've been laying in the weeds with that question, he lays in the weeds in free agency and kind of does his own thing. So, the Colts are in a good position with their GM and head coach right now. To answer your question, John, about the quarterbacks, I'll circle back. Trevor Lawrence is 1. Zach Wilson's 2. I like Justin Fields 3. I like Lance 4, and then Mac Jones 5. I think Kyle Trask is close. I think he's a little bit further away, but he could be a starter in this league for sure. But I like that group. I think there's only one franchise guy, and those other ones need good players around them to be successful.
Can't hear you, Sam.
Can't hear you.
My bad. I'm muted. Shocker. I do that to myself all the time. I'm sure you guys would rather me do that. But anyways, I started to call you Mr. Beddingfield, and then I said, do I have to call you that? I feel like I have to, but can I just call you Blake?
Sure.
Can you just be Blake?
Anytime.
Are we friends
Just
now?
Blake. We are friends now.
Right?
Yes.
Like we've hung out now for way
That's right.
past the time you were supposed to hang out. So I feel like we're
Hey,
friends.
I enjoyed it.
Awesome.
I enjoyed it. We are friends. Anytime.
Awesome. Come, we'd love to have you back. We thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your input. Like I said and before, it's so cool to see this end of the NFL, because as fans, we always see the players, we always see the coaches. Everybody talks about the GMs. Nobody sees this side where the scouts are actually the ones out there doing the investigating and the dirty work. So we really appreciate your commentary and giving us that side of it. It's awesome.
Hey, I was happy to be here. I love talking ball anytime.
All right, come back then. We're
Hey,
friends
hey,
now. We're friends now. You have to.
Man,
If
That's right.
if you ever talk to Taylor, tell him, say, hey, I found this new podcast. You should come on. Just tell him, hey, what's up?
Hey,
Spread the word.
Taylor would be your best guest you've ever had. He was I'm gonna tell you right now, as an interview, he was fantastic, because you're not gonna get a more original person than him.
That's what we're about. It's all about that.
Tell him that we said prove it.
I
Right.
will. Oh, we
All
can do
right.
that.
On.
All right.
Well,
Thanks,
you
guys.
so much. We appreciate you. Make
Appreciate
sure
it.
that you check
Thanks,
out
Blake.
Blake Beddingfield. He's on Twitter, like I said again, at BlakeBed. And
Do you have his
we will
website?
chat with you soon. Thank you so much.
Sounds good.
thanks, Blake.
All right, Matt, we're gonna let you go ahead and kick this off. We've already done the Titans. That was really awesome, by the way.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. A lot of point of view.
But actually, before we go on, we're gonna take a break so we can hear a word from our sponsors. Okay.
Word.
Quick break. Da, da, da.
I thought he was good. Like, he kind of veered off a little bit, but it was never uninteresting.
No, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved that. I love the stuff that you don't like, that kind of stuff that you don't ever hear about. It's great. I love it. Anyways, okay. Matt Briggs. I know last week we didn't discuss Deshaun Watson, and we kind of talked a few weeks ago about our opinions on the matter. We're not going to go into that. Still a developing story. Can you just get us up to speed with what has happened in the last 2 weeks?
So another case was filed today. So I believe the total is up to 21 or 22. But his ambulance chasing lawyer made a Instagram post saying that he's going to have a presser tomorrow, and there's a lot of speculations saying that he's going to release 10 more cases against him. So
At
who
this
knows?
point, so at this point, we won't ask how, why, when, whatever. But do
Right.
you see Deshaun Watson being quarterback for the Texans?
Well, I before today I would have told you yes because earlier last week they were in talks with Alex Smith of coming to the Texans. Um, they both met and they kind of said, "Nah, we're good," and walked away. But at the end of last week, the Texans, I guess, were just throwing money at him, trying to get him to come back because there was a talk of a Miami Dolphins trade for Deshaun Watson in the first pick. But
He would
now
fit right
with
in down there,
right, well, now
even with
with
all the charges.
right now with all the charges, with the NFL is investigating him now. HPD finally came out and said yes, we have investigation going on. We are looking into it. So with all this going on, I don't think Deshaun Watson's own mama would touch him at this moment. I don't think any team wants him. So I think he's just gonna sit on the bench and eat money and money and more money when we could have got a Christian McCaffrey for him, a Tua for him. The most important thing is draft capital, but once again, we
I
dropped the
mean,
ball.
wouldn't he at some point be considered breaking the team's policy and the NFL policy where the team could just drop him and not have to pay him?
I don't know.
I think
mean,
it depends on what
you
investigation
exactly.
unfolds.
Right now, all you're seeing is hearsay. All you're seeing is what the women's saying. You're not. There's no proof. Is there proof? We don't know. Like I said, we're not getting into it.
I
But
think that's when like the NFL Players Association has to step in and all that kind of stuff and like
well, before the NFL actually like gets hard into them, they're going to really look into it. I mean, it's not like a Ray Rice where they have a video of him punching a girl in the elevator or a Kareem Hunt kicking a girl in the head. There's no evidence quite yet, so who knows?
oh, we don't know if we want those videos, so just
Right. Well, right. Well, it's just like Big Ben. Big Ben. Who knows what really happened? But there's no proof, so
I
he
mean,
didn't get.
there was proof with Brett Favre though. It was very
Well, yeah,
it
but
was
that
very
proof
it was
that proof
very
came out after he retired.
yeah,
But
it was
I get what you're saying.
it was very little proof.
But if
You know
nobody
what I
has
mean.
seen, right?
Very little proof. But it
Hey,
was
Brett Favre is a hero.
oh, calm down, John Ha. How are you going to talk positive about Brett Favre and not your own team? I don't know.
Brett Favre
you
is
know
the
what?
reason
You've been
why.
on your bed.
Brett Favre is the reason why I watch NFL football, so he can do no
Oh.
wrong.
Is that why you wear Wranglers too?
That's why I'm wearing the Wranglers
And
with the fly down.
He also wears the copper sleeves or whatever.
Yeah.
He's my hero. I'll do
I'm
anything
fit.
Brett Favre does.
I'm fit.
Yeah.
But it's just right now it's just disturbing, especially if you read the Sports Illustrated piece about the woman who came out about what actually she has not filed a lawsuit and she says she's not going to. She just wanted her story to be heard.
That's her prerogative.
If that story is anywhere true, that dude's a monster and doesn't deserve is sickening. But
I actually have not.
like I said,
I was really big into it when it first happened. I realized that it was so controversial and flip-flopping and there's so many like moving pieces that I've decided to like push away
I think
until it's done.
I'm that way too. But like I said, I still read and that piece
so
that well
I get that.
hey don't go that far. But
well, I'm just saying, like I get why you would be more.
Well,
I quarterback of your favorite team right now.
He's not Kyle Murray. All right, he's not on the Cardinals.
That's true.
But I like to read just to see everything going on. But like I said, it's disturbing.
Yeah.
But I think the bad thing about this whole situation and it's taking the spotlight off the true matter, and that's the victims, is this lawyer. This lawyer is a piece of scum, and he's just after one thing and one thing only. and it's sadly the money.
I'm not gonna lie. I think that all of this is taking the spotlight off the fact that you guys traded away Deshaun Hopkins for nothing. JJ
Deshaun
Watts.
Hopkins. I never heard of Deshaun Hopkins.
I mean,
DeAndre.
too many names. And JJ
Too many baby mamas. Too many
JJ
baby
Watt-
mamas.
JJ Watt's gone, and you guys are still able to like actually build a pretty solid team in the background. But this is like taking the forefront. Like it's kind of crappy for the team itself. But with that being said, Matt, are there any other rumors before we move on?
Other than we were trying to go after Alex Smith, which all those
That fell
rumors
apart,
died.
huh?
Yeah, all those rumors. I don't.
Who's your quarterback now besides Deshaun? Who's that?
Tyrod Taylor, which is
Tyrod
not
Taylor,
a bad pickup, but he's only going to win you 6 or 7 games.
He's a backup quarterback. Like,
Yeah.
Just keep the team doctors away from him.
Right. I was about to say, if we don't puncture his lung with a needle, we'll be all right.
I mean, the Jaguars already downed him in the AFC wildcard game. Smack down.
Oh, that's right. Against the Bills?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've never been the biggest Tyrod fan
that.
anyway.
It's a segue. Matt Green.
Wait, is there stuff actually happening with the Jaguars?
I don't know. Matt Green, what's going on with the Jaguars?
Let's find out. So first off, I want to say I think one of the most annoying parts of this season as a fan is all the smoke the smoke screens that are sent out from teams. It's really annoying because you never know who you're going to get. And then come to find out your team drafts Blake Bortles. But that's another issue. But for Jaguars, I think it's even more annoying because here we have the number 1 pick. Why the heck don't we have Trevor Lawrence signed to a lifetime contract already? We can do that.
Draft him first.
Yeah, but what about the years ago where you could sign the number 1 overall pick was signed before he even went into the draft?
I feel like Roger.
You need ratings. You need ratings for the draft.
Right.
I get it.
And I think that's what
I
has
get
a
it.
lot to do with that. And I think probably Roger Dale's probably crapping his pants right now that Trevor Lawrence isn't even showing up. Like he's come out and said he's not going. He's going to be with his family. So I think that's probably
it's
why
fine.
Yeah.
Let him stay home. That's fine.
Oh, I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. As long as he still shows up to Jacksonville and for training camp, right?
That's right. No, it's frustrating, but I get it. But another thing I hate is when they're at news conferences and you're asking, "Hey, we guys leaning towards Trevor?" And you always get the PR answer, the PC answer of, we're still looking into all the players and blah blah blah. We already know it's Trevor Lawrence. And I will say this: news for the Jaguars is this past week, Urban Meyer was asked in a news conference, "Hey, which way do you guys think you're leaning, Trevor Lawrence?" And he actually did come out and say, "It's looking like we're heading that way." I feel safe saying that. He didn't give a definitive yes, we are going to, but he did give a yeah, we're leaning that way. So that felt good. And the only reason you're worried about as a Jaguars fan is again just
man. I'm always convinced the rug's gonna get taken out from under me too. So
yeah,
it's never for sure until it happens, right?
But as far as news goes, Damian Wilson, linebacker from was with the Chiefs the past 2 seasons, has signed with Jaguars. A solid veteran player. I mean, he's 27 years old. He's going to add a veteran presence to the team, which is nice. We were a really young team last year, so bringing some of his experience, his Super Bowl experience.
I think that was a great.
We saw how that went with Nick Foles. But so he's been added to our linebacker core. He's a depth piece. He's not going to push any of our starters out, but he'll be a nice change of pace. He's more of a more power, I guess, versus finesse with Miles Jack and Joe Schobert. They're more on the athletic side, and he's a solid tackler. Which again, if you've watched our games last year, tackling was abysmal. So that was a good addition for the Jaguars this past week. So.
I think it was a solid pickup for you guys. Really do. He's
I
great.
know Justin was a commentator for the Jaguars last week, and I was not hosting. We had Chris fill in for me last week. So I don't know if you guys touched on Tyson Alualu, but sad face. Do you want to talk about that real quick, Matt?
Do I want to? No, but will I? Yes. So Tyson Alualu, that history. He's that ex that we wanted back, and he thought he wanted to be back with us, but come to find out, the grass wasn't greener. I guess. I guess we had a contract in place. It was a verbal commitment on his way to Jacksonville. He, I guess, contracted COVID-19, so he wasn't able to actually make it to Jacksonville. And during that time of quarantine, his teammates were able to convince him to stay. So Tyson Alualu was going to be a good addition. Again, he wasn't going to be a world beater. He wasn't going to, change the face of the franchise, but he was a well liked player from the past that we were hoping to bring him back. But if you want to stay in Pittsburgh, suck it. So
Right. I mean, what? Yes.
What?
I agree. I'm not biased. I don't know. Never mind. Anyway, I that was upsetting and strange at the same time. Like, there's not a lot of times that you hear like, this player's signing with the team. Just kidding.
Yeah, it's like
there's
it was
such
all
thing as COVID brain. Like, maybe he like had brain fog and he doesn't mean it. We don't know.
It was like
It's almost like
DeAndre Jordan. I don't know if you guys for the
Oh,
NBA,
okay.
DeAndre
Mavericks.
Jordan was
I was
supposed to
gonna
sign
say-
with Dallas.
I was gonna say it's like when Josh McDaniels was going to be the Colts head coach.
Oh,
Yeah, that too.
well, that was probably worse because didn't he have a coaching staff like in place, signed
Yeah.
contracts?
Yes.
yeah.
Everybody was signed.
Yeah.
Wait, did you guys just set up my segue for me?
We did.
Yeah, they did.
See how good we are?
But hold on, Matt. Do you have any final comments, or is that it? You good?
No,
Matt Greaves?
that
That's it?
That was
All
it.
Then you guys segued for me. Look at
Thanks,
that.
guys.
Good job.
What do you think of Josh McDaniels?
Alrighty there,
Nick-
Josh Sr. Actually, hold on. We totally forgot to shout you out. Josh Sr. got engaged recently. I know it's been a little
What-
bit. but
what?
We never shouted that out.
Oh, thank you.
So
Thank you, guys.
congratulations.
It's been about 3 weeks now, and everything is all well now. I get a lot of cooking, a lot of happiness.
That poor
I get
woman.
the,
Well, listen, as
Yeah.
a woman, I'm going to go ahead and pre-warn you. That's because you put the ring on it. Don't
There you go.
expect that
Yeah.
once the vows get drawn. But that's fine. I mean, hey,
Enjoy it.
enjoy it while it lasts.
yeah, it's,
Set the date a little
a happy
further
life.
away. Long engagement.
Yep. Yeah, keep the
Oh, yeah,
engagement
it's
going,
further
and
away.
then once you get married, ramen. Ha!
anyway.
All right, Josh
I'm
Sr.
excited though. I'm excited.
Yes, good. Congratulations. But the Colts, what's up? Are you guys still like freaking out about having Wentz, or tell us? Give us a
No,
lowdown.
we actually happy. He has now thrown to every receiver for the team. We still looking to re-sign Justin Houston, and we're still interested in getting Zach Ertz. So that's pretty much the only news that we have. Nothing else exciting other than the Wentz. But that's pretty much what we have in our camp right now. We need to get a tackle to replace Anthony Costanzo, and I see a bunch of guys that we can replace them with. So, but no big news in Indy.
What do you think is? Who do you think you guys are picking first overall? If you had to guess, nothing like crazy. If you had to.
Where are you
guess.
guys picking? What's the pick? Are you
Hold
19?
on, no, I wouldn't say who do you guess you were gonna pick. Who do you want to pick first overall? There's a better one.
I like the Tevin Jenkins tackle, Oklahoma State.
Oh, you are like dead set on a tackle. You're like tackle.
Yeah,
Tackle. Need a tackle.
We traded for a quarterback. We gotta protect this blind side.
You guys got
It's a-
Ty back. Ty's home.
It's a solid roster. So
I'm
why
excited
not go
for
for
T.Y.
what you
Bear.
lost?
That was big news, right? Ty's home.
Yes, I'm happy. Bring back T. Home. Yes. Now we gotta bring back Justin Houston.
Yeah.
Bring him back. But yeah, we gotta protect this blind side. We need to get a tackle. But if we didn't go tackle, receiver. I like that guy, Rashad Bateman. He said his name. Rashad Bateman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like him. He's a dope receiver. I like that him at 21.
All right. Nothing else to add, huh? Short
Nothing
and
else
sweet.
to add in Indy. we're pretty much quiet, and then we keep it that way until the draft.
Hey,
It's pretty quiet everywhere, with the exception of like Deshaun Watson. This is kind of like that lead up to the draft. There's not a lot of activity.
yeah,
Yeah,
It's
we pretty
sad.
much keep
it
everything.
is sad. It is sad. Well, guys,
Before we go, score update. Gonzaga's losing to Baylor. 53.
Yeah, Baylor's doing pretty good on him right now.
Yeah, 53-48. And
Yeah.
Astros are winning like always.
So are the Yankees. So
Yankees, Yankees won 7-0.
That's right. Aaron Judge hit his home run. Got his first of many this year.
Carlos had a grand slam.
Here's my words to that.
well, guys,
yeah,
we actually do need somebody. I'll edit this part out of the podcast. That goes on all major platforms at 9 or what time? 3:30 a.m. Wednesday mornings on all major platforms. But if anybody is in the Houston area, contact me or Matt Briggs. We need somebody to go to the Tony Busby press conference tomorrow.
For real.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, other than that, guys, if you have nothing else to add, no more comments. Everything's quiet tonight. Everybody's watching baseball. Who even cares? This is the Fan Battle podcast for the NFL. Nobody cares about baseball. Okay, maybe you guys, not me. Anyways, we thank you guys for tuning in to the AFC South Fan Battle podcast on the Brawl Network. Make sure you check out your prospective teams on the Brawl Network. They have all of the different teams: Titans Brawl, Jaguars Brawl, Colts Brawl, Texans Brawl. If you're Matt Briggs, Cardinals Brawl, and and definitely check us out on Facebook and Twitter. We have a streak going. We're trying to get Pat McAfee on our podcast. Pat, if you're listening, we know you're following us on Twitter. We know you see our tweets. Come on the podcast.
Do it.
We're at like 67 days, I think, today.
Today is 68.
68 days. Okay.
68.
If Pat McAfee is truly Pat McAfee, on day 69, he will say yes. I'm just saying. Do it.
I hope so.
You probably will.
The legend. We need you on here. Anyways, guys, we thank you guys for tuning in with us, and we will see you next week.
Peace.